look, we've done a lot of fan casts, and doing one at the end of Robin Williams Week that featured Robin Williams originally seemed like a good idea. But also, old Jumanji is different to New Jumanji. New Jumanji, I have no problems with the New Jumanji films, especially Welcome to the Jungle. I thought it was a really well done, surprisingly so, version of the kind of things that made Jumanji great. But if they were to remake actual original Jumanji today, with a board game, not a video game, all of that, what would it look like? It wouldn't have Robin Williams, and that makes it difficult, because he's always a very hard man to replace. And the rest of the cast was very strong as well. Young Kirsten Dunst was in there. There was a lot of great people cast in that. So, how would you do it today? Okay. Well, firstly with Alan Parrish. Replacing Robin Williams is... we've been talking about how great he is, and how uniquely amazing he was at the heartfelt comedy, or the drama comedy. And he really was. You look at most of his films, even if they're fairly outright comedies, there's a heartfelt element in there. It's just the way he naturally gravitated throughout his career. And this one, and this role, there is a sadness to it most of the way through. Which, I don't know how you want to handle that, necessarily. I don't know how heartfelt you want to go deeply into that. I feel like Alan Parrish should be played modern day by Steve Carell. Just, yeah. Is he a replacement for Ron Williams? Similarly, Steve Carell is good at these outlandishly ridiculous comedic characters. Similarly, Steve Carell's really good at the heartfelt stuff. A lot of drama comedy roles he's done are really good. Little Miss Sunshine, he was incredible in that. And he's done a lot of roles all along the spectrum of comedy. He's done Gru in Despicable Me, and that's the kind of voice I could imagine. It's the kind of character voiceover role that I can imagine Robin Williams having done. So I'm not going to try and say Steve Carell is as good as Robin Williams, but he is a great modern day replacement for him, I think. In this kind of film, I think he'd be really good at Alan Parrish. He's just such a unique kind of madcap character like Steve Carell in Anchorman, but similarly has the heartfelt side to him like Steve Carell in a lot of things. And at the same time, he's kind of a bit... not cringy like Michael Scott, but there's something of his nature that's kind of like irritating to me in that film. He's not meant to be like an outright good guy character, really. He's been crazed in the jungle alone for too long, really, for that. But he's a great character. I think Steve Carell would be brilliant at him. Sarah Whittle is the adult woman. Yeah, that was Bonnie Hunt in the original, and she was great. And my one thing about casting Steve Carell was I had a few actresses in mind for Sarah, and then I realised, oh, Steve Carell's like late 50s now, actually. You probably want to cast older for her as well than originally, because they are meant to have grown up together. They're meant to have been pretty much the same age as kids. So that would make sense. And I don't mind the idea of both those characters being older, being in their 50s. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Especially doing it modern day, you can still have their childhood scenes set in the... roughly the same time period, actually, yeah. It's been about 25 years since Jumanji. Actually, yeah, you could just have the same year, pretty much, believably-ish, as when they were kids, and then it's modern day again. But now modern day is 25 years later. And I think that works perfectly well. I think them finally getting together when they are, like, old, and then going back to when they were kids, is an even nicer version of that story for them. And I think there is a correct choice here. Similarly to Bonnie Hunt, I feel like Laura Dern would be great for this role. This kind of family-friendly adventure film is what she made her name on with Jurassic Park. And then one of her other big roles is in The Last Jedi, which is also, I suppose, a adventure family film. And she is great. She's so good, and she's the right kind of person to take on that role. And recently, she's had a bit of a career resurgence. The Last Jedi, and then like Little Women. So good in that. So I would love to see her taking on a role like this. I think she feels in a lot of her characters, this part is right for her. And yeah, I think her and Steve Carell would make a really nice couple. Just randomly. Yep, that'd work. Van Pelt is the hunter from the game that follows Robin Williams into the real world. And he's actually just trying to shoot everybody throughout the film. Definitely the most menacing thing about it. But to make him a family-friendly villain, you need somebody, I think British. I think stick with the same thing you had going there in the original. He was this older British guy, proper kind of 19th century hunter, big African game hunter. That kind of thing. So I would imagine Hugh Laurie doing that very well. Quite obviously. Why? I think he's the pompous, the overly pompous, so that it's funny British role. It goes to Hugh Laurie automatically. And especially since Van Pelt he looks older. And Van Pelt, the same actor that played him, I believe, played the father of Robin Williams' character in the 60s or whatever it was. And I can imagine Hugh Laurie doing that really well. Additionally. This kind of like more heartfelt and at the same time kind of strict role as a father. I think he could get away with that. How was that? Van Pelt was old. How did that work? He was his dad when he was a kid, but he was already that old. Wow. No, I mean, it works. That's what they did in the original. I'm just kind of casting around that. And Hugh Laurie would be really funny as that sort of fairly threatening, but still fitting for a kid's film kind of villain in that role, I think. Nora Shepherd is the aunt that actually lives in the house where they find the game, I believe. The kids get brought there. Their parents are non sequiturs. They're not important. I'm not going to bother casting them. But the aunt is in it more, and honestly, similarly to overly pompous, funny British guy goes to Hugh Laurie, aunt character or worried motherly character in a film like this goes to Judy Greer. Just like Jurassic World. Am I casting this like it's a Jurassic Park film? That's not a bad way to go, honestly. And there's no reason not to cast her. She's great. She plays those roles very well. In Jurassic World, she was the worried mother figure, and they were off on adventures. And then in Ant-Man, she was... Right? That was her, right? Yeah, I think so. Was the motherly figure that, oh, she's worried about her little girl. And to a lesser degree about Scott himself. And Judy Greer is great at that. She's so good at those roles. I don't often cast her in like a leading role, but this kind of role, she's funny for, she's great for. It's just enjoyable, it's simple to cast. It is typecasting for her, weirdly, at this stage. But it would work. Carell Bentley is the black cop who was formerly a shoemaker who pops up enough that I bothered casting him when I'm not casting like their parents and that kind of thing. He's around enough, I think, to make it work. And again, I thought, okay, so this is another case where he's around in the past scenes. He's a young man, but he is older than Robin Williams or any of their characters. So I kind of thought, okay, so you need to head into somebody that's in their 60s who can be endearing and fun and also can bring that authority as a policeman. It was a little too easy to cast Denzel Washington for this one. Yep. Probably wouldn't take the role. It's a pretty small one. They could increase the size of it, have him properly take part in the game to some degree. Or they could just not, and not get Denzel Washington. But I think he'd be great for it. I think he's around the right age, because he was a young guy, right? So, 7 or 8 years older than Steve Carell and Laura Dern. It's about right. I think that would work. And he's Denzel Washington. He's perfect. At everything. Yeah. And then finally, you need the kids. Alright? They're kind of the centerpiece of it, but they get left out a bit. And Judy is... And here's the tricky part. I think they're... When they were originally cast, the actors, when they played the roles, I think they were about 14 and 13. So I've gone for something pretty much the same, honestly. Pretty much the same ages. It is tricky to say that I want Ariana Greenblatt as Judy Shepard, because she is not white. She's a mixture of races, and that means that, oh no, you have to cast a brother for her. That makes it tricky, because it is difficult to find somebody that's exactly the same mix of races as her. You know, this is always an issue, and therefore I decided to make it a non-issue by not worrying about it at all. Yeah, that's pretty much the route I've gone down. I've decided, you know what, if you want to call it colorblind casting, fine. If you want to just not even show their parents and just kind of go, how are they brother and sister? Doesn't matter. If you want to make one of them adopted, doesn't matter. Not important. Actually, that could add an extra layer of heartfeltness to it if they don't really get along because one of them is adopted. And then they learn to get along because they've been in mortal danger. Works in everything. I like Ariana Greenblatt a lot. She's one of the busiest child actors working today. She's fantastic. She pops up in things and I just go, oh, that's her again. And because I've started fan casting her and stuff, I do go, oh, yes, she's getting more big roles. So continue fan casting her. She's great. She's really great. And she's adorable and fantastic every time she turns up in something. Works perfectly for any kid role. In anything. And then her brother. I think she's 14 now. So I was kind of like, okay, yeah, just go about a year younger. And I didn't like the kid in Jumanji. I didn't like the kid in the original. He annoyed me. The character, the kid, everything about him. And then he was in that version meant to be kind of annoying. He was. I would appreciate it if they tried not to make him quite so annoying because I really didn't give a shit about him, generally. So I would like them to cast Ianrmitage. That's right. You're not going to find many child actors still as young as, I think he's 13, working today, who have as much experience on screen as Ianrmitage. He plays young Sheldon. So he already has a ton of experience on screen in a proper leading role. In a TV show. In a sitcom. Which means so much comedic experience on screen in a major role. Which makes him perfect for this. I don't quite... It's not going to be the exact same character as Peter normally was. But as I said, I think that's a good thing. And that cast, it's not exactly the same as the original film, but you can see why they're being replaced. Why those people are replacing them. I like to think you can. And I think it would work actually really well. I doubt we're going to worry about it because they're just set on the new characters they've got. But it'll be interesting to see. That is all for this one. I mean, gosh. I don't know what week we'll do next. We're not quite finished with Robin Williams week. We got my favourite coming up tonight. But generally, I like doing these weeks. Let me know what other actors you think deserve one on the channel and what fan cast you would like to see at the end of their week, because that's important. Also subscribe. Yeah,